Are you curious to know what a wine grape harvest looks like inside a winery? Have you participated in a harvest as a cellar hand? And if so, where? Would you like to live vicariously through images and experiences that I've had during the grape harvest in 2020 at Quails Gate Winery in West Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada? And this was my experience that I'll share with you in the next 15 to 20 minutes in hopes that it'll inspire you to go do a harvest your own, if you can, and share about that as well. My name is Malcolm Lamont. I'm a certified wine educator with the Society of Wine Educators and hold the diploma with Wine and Spirit Education Trust, WSET, as well as a graduate degree in education in curriculum, teaching, and learning studies. And I'm honored to go through this presentation. Delighted to share my experience of the Grape Crush in 2020 at Quails Gate Winery. Quails Gate Winery is a family-owned winery located in West Kelowna in British Columbia on the beautiful Okanagan Lake. And this was the 2020 harvest. So in the fall following COVID vintage. Quails Gate Winery is located at about 49.84 latitude north above the equator, right just below the very limit of viticultural possibilities. It said that the wine grapes can only grow between 30 and 50 degrees latitude to produce good quality viable viticulture. And Quails Gate is right at the marginal limit, but in a fantastic climate and mesoclimate with beautiful estate vineyards, and also sourcing from further south in Osoyoos, close to the 49 degree parallel and border with the United States. Its longitude is about 120, so nearly 2/3 of the way around the world from Greenwich towards the international dateline. If you're interested, you can follow my blog at boymeetsoldworld.wordpress.com. There I've blogged about my experience in British Columbia and Okanagan, as well as Niagara, Ontario, another fantastic wine producing region, and other wine regions throughout the world in Australia, as well as whiskey regions in Speyside, United Kingdom, and others. So you can follow me there. Full disclaimer, Quails Gate does not authorize this webinar. This is my presentation that I'm sharing with you through my lens and my experience in photos taken while working the harvest at Quails Gate. So what is a cellar hand? It's a position in a winery that works for the winemaking team. During harvest, they'll hire more cellar hands, but there are full-time cellar hand positions, and they help with process once the grapes are harvested and received at the winery. Then cellar hands in the winemaking team, led by the cellar master and the head winemaker, as well as assistant winemakers, turn those grapes into wine. So we'll see that process here as experienced in 2020. In August, after driving across most of Canada from Ontario, I arrived at the winery, as you can see here, and we had a fantastic team tasting of the full portfolio of Quails Gate wines of previous vintages. This was maybe 22, 23 wines, and it just set the benchmark. It was a great team building experience. We got to taste all these wines that we were trying to live up to and meet the quality level with the 2020 crush. Grape crush is also known as harvest or vintage. In August, it was great to get out into the vineyards and take photos of the grapes going through veraison. This is the ripening process where red grapes go from the green, almost like a tart apple taste and color, and ripen into the beautiful red and purple and blues. So there's a couple photos of veraison there. Can you tell which photo was taken later? And the third image is of a bird banger, a cannon. So this is a propane gun that shoots propane noise cannon to scare the birds and tourists and those who don't know. But fairly effective in keeping birds off in August, September, as they start to get hungry and descend and can eat and consume quite a bit of the grapes. So if you hear guns, almost sounds like a gunshot going off in a wine region around August and certainly September and October in the northern hemisphere, February, March, and April in the southern hemisphere is their harvest. This is just to scare off the birds, so no need to run for cover. So I got to tour around in Kelowna at the beautiful, iconic Mission Hill Winery with the bell tower, and that's in West Kelowna as well, on the west bank of Lake Okanagan. And in Kelowna itself, on the east bank, is Summerhill. They have a fantastic sparkling wine, traditional method sparkling wine program. And the third image is of the smoke coming in from over the east Kelowna hills in the Monashee Mountain range and descending. Fortunately, they didn't come into over the grapes here that you can see on the west side of the lake. Unlike this vintage 2023, where there was very detrimental fires and smoke. So a little bit startling in 2020, but everything worked out great in the end. So no smoke taint. And the grapes started to come in, so they were being harvested, and they start coming in fast and furious. Here's a few images. I believe top left is Syrah, as well as Pinot Noir in the middle. Possibly Chardonnay or Chasselas for the white. And I believe these were Gamay in the large bins that were received, maybe 8 or 10 tons there. So grapes start to come in and they need to be processed. So once the grapes are harvested and arrive at the winery, they're then turned into wine. So that involves sorting out MOG, matter other than grapes, MOG, so mostly leaves, but also possibly canes or other items, but anything other than grapes. There's a couple of interesting cap management techniques. One is punching down. So as red wines ferment, the carbon dioxide given off in the fermentation lifts the skins. The red wines are fermented on the skins to give the red wine color, as well as flavor and tannin. And the fermentation is pushing the skins up and it makes a cap. So you have to punch down that cap. So here I am at the top of the tank punching down on the cap of red skins for this fermentation. The other technique is called pumping over. I'll mention that in just a second. Third one is malolactic carboy. So this is a glass container of a lactic acid bacteria that converts malic acid in the wines, kind of like a tart green apple, into a soft lactic acid. So malolactic. And that lactic acid gives the Chardonnay or red wines, this Pinot Noir, for example, has a nice vanilla and kind of butterscotch characteristic, and the Quails Gate Chardonnay has a nice buttery butterscotch characteristic, and that's in part from the oak aging and in part from the malolactic conversion. So this is the carboy starting to develop that benevolent bacteria. Then we have pumping over. So this is another cap management technique, but rather than punching down the cap into the vat of wine, pumping over draws wine from underneath the skins within the vat and pumps it up to the top level at the top of the tank, and then you can see it's kind of spraying over the cap there. I'll show you a video on the next slide, but this is a cap management technique that pulls wine underneath and sprays it out over the top to recirculate and get more of that skin color and taste and tannin into the wine. And lastly, I'm just curious if these are tartaric diamonds. I don't believe they are, but if you see just on my fingernails, that was part of the MOG sorting as the grapes are going up the grape elevator into the press, pushing them down into the destemmer, pushing them down to see any leaves and pull out the leaves and MOG. And if you know what this white kind of film that was on my nails was, just an interesting picture, share that in the comments below, if you like. So here's pumping over. See if we can get this playing. So that's a little video. I hope it was clear. Maybe there was sound of the wine being pumped up to the top level and then out over and being dispersed and sprayed with the wand there. Just enjoying a lovely Quails Gate. This is a 2020 Pinot Noir that we had here in the Ontario market, and it's fantastic. This is a really complex wine, so just really happy and grateful to enjoy that here with you. This was a fermentation, I believe on the left was Syrah, and so you've seen, maybe I'll look at the image on the right, has dehydrated yeast. So yeast are the single-celled organisms that ferment. This is the magical process that converts the sweet grape juice into dry, boozy, alcoholic wine and final wine. And so in order to do so, you need to hydrate the yeast. So you see the 3 buckets on the top have been rehydrated and about to have the, I believe that was Gewürztraminer juice added to them to give it sugar once they're rehydrated. And then you'll see on the left, the Syrah has had the juice added to it, or maybe this was the Merlot. And the juice is added to it, and that gives them nutrients, and then starts to multiply the populations of yeast, and they'll consume more sugar. And within an hour, you want to get the newly fermenting buckets of yeast and juice into the tank, and they'll ferment the whole tank and carry that out over maybe a week, 3 days to 2 weeks perhaps, within a week being an average, to ferment a tank of wine. So very fortunate to do a couple of yeast fermentations for, I think this is the Merlot on the left and Gewürztraminer on the right, and also really lucky to do in the concrete eggs, which is a large concrete fermentation vessel that allows for good circulation of the yeast fermentation, and I was able to inoculate that for the Chenin Blanc, which was great. Also lots of barrels to look after. So this is the barrel program at Quails Gate. Each one of these might cost, I'm not sure exactly, but maybe $1,000 to maybe $1,500, maybe more. This is what the Chardonnay goes into. So you'd be responsible for topping up as the wine ages and oxidizes and reacts with the barrel. You need to top it up and continue filling it up for red wines as well as white wines. And maybe do some lees stirring. So I had the large baton for batonnage. You know, it's one thing to study winemaking in a WSET course or winemaking course, and that's great. And you learn about batonnage, which is the lees stirring. But it's another thing to go get a stick, a baton, and go do the lees stirring in a barrel. It's quite the, you know, it's a very, it's like learning about skiing from a book, or learning about skiing by strapping on some skis and going down a hill. So really great experiences with the lees stirring, as well as adding a little bit of sulfur tablets, which is important, you know, for judicious winemaking to keep the balance of the wine and antioxidant, and just a great experience. In October, we had Thanksgiving in Canada, so grabbed a bottle of wine. I think that was a Quails Gate Stewart Family Reserve Pinot Noir, 2018 vintage. We had a delicious meal prepared by Old Buns Restaurant, and you can see it there, and just prepared it in the morning, and we sat outside on a nice day and shared some wine and thanks, and just a really great day. I was very thankful for that Thanksgiving. And in October, September leading into October, there was a blue moon. So here we see in the image on the left is the harvest moon on October 1st or maybe 2nd. And that's above the Quails Gate Winery tasting room, near the winery, cellar door. And then leaves are falling, all the beautiful red maple leaves, Thanksgiving and Halloween. And the last image on the right is the blue moon at the end of October over Lake Okanagan. And you can see a snowfall there already. There was a very early snowfall in mid-October, mid or late, I think third week in October. So kind of caught us by surprise. And in fact, all the harvest pickers had gone home. So for Dias de la Muerte in October, and so the Cabernet Sauvignon, which you see here, was still on the vine. And so the whole winemaking team, as well as the head office. They came out and we're all harvesting these capsule grapes. You can see the image there in the bucket, a little bit of mog, and eventually we had the bins filled up, and that was had completed the harvest. So there's our final image. There you can see the snowfall with the maple tree there. That might have been mid to late October. And on the top right image we have the harvest team had a wonderful dinner. Beautiful service, maybe 3 or 4 courses from the Old Vines restaurant, and paired with wines and sparkling wine, and there's a little bit of arm wrestling, and just recapping the end of the vintage. This was in the beginning part of November, and just a great time. Opened up some older bottles of Quails Gate Wine Club exclusive wines that were incredible, showing just beautifully after 5 or 10 years of age, and just really great and grateful and honored to have been at that dinner and participated in this harvest. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I hope you're inspired. Leave some message in the comments if you're interested, if you like, share if you can, and subscribe if you like to Constructive Wine Online. And thanks so much. Let me know if you're doing a harvest, if you're participating as a cellar hand, where you're doing it in the world, and what your experience is like. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next webinar.